Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday, folks. I am just loving how much you guys are loving this chat right now. Like, when did we get our first chat in here? I think like last week, maybe, was the first person popping into the chat. You guys are so excited. You're giving me energy right now. I love it. Welcome. Good morning. Hello. Michael's here. I'm here. We're stoked to be with you guys. Hi. I love that you guys are introducing your businesses as well. As you probably know, HoneyBook is big on community. So we love that you guys are taking the time to get to know each other a little bit and introduce your businesses and your value, because that's all we're here to talk about today. So you are in the right place. This is how to develop your services and establish your pricing. My name is Mac. I am here as part of the product education team from the HoneyBook side. So y'all probably know what HoneyBook is, because I think the majority of our attendees today are HoneyBook members already. But if you're still trying to figure it out, HoneyBook is business management software from end to end. So from the very first time you get an inquiry, our sweet spot is really from inquiry through booking, but really just helping you manage all of your communications between all of your different clients so that nothing ever slips through the cracks and you get as much time back as possible. That wasn't quite an elevator pitch, but you guys probably all already knew that anyways. So excited to have you guys here this morning. I put a couple of housekeeping notes, which have now gone way up in the chat because we're all chatting. Like I said, I love it. But just to go through a couple quick housekeeping items with y'all. We are going to save questions for the last 10 minutes. So as your questions are coming through, I'm going to be grabbing them and saving them for the last 10 minutes here together. So whether it's a HoneyBook question or a question for Michael, who we're going to invite up on screen in a couple seconds here, keep those coming in and I will grab those and hopefully we'll be able to get to a good chunk of them in the last 10 minutes of our time here today. We're going to be kind of switching back and forth between Michael, who's going to be talking largely about pricing strategies, and he'll kind of go through his agenda with us once we get him up here on screen, and switching between him and myself, where I'll be doing more of a high level, or actually not so high level. I'll be doing kind of a deeper dive into some more specific features and how you can kind of implement some of the business best practices that Michael is introducing to us into the HoneyBook system. So he's going to be introducing us to the value, and I'll be introducing us into kind of the tactical how-to of adding that to the HoneyBook system. So something to look forward to there. If you ever have any audio or visual issues today, usually the best line of defense is just to refresh your page. You might have to find a play button in the bottom left-hand corner or an unmute in the same location when you do that. And the biggest question I get about all my webinars, is this going to be recorded? Yes, honey, we're going to send it out. We are going to send it out to you guys after we're done recording here today. It'll also be live on YouTube, so you can always go to our YouTube channel to rewatch any of the webinars we've done, past to present. So you can always go there, but this page actually turns into the recording afterwards. So if you just want to bookmark it right now, you can totally do that, and we will email it to you. So we got you covered. And then our slide deck is down below if you guys want to open that up to follow along, or if you want to open it up and bookmark that to review later, you can absolutely do that. Last little bit, we are always wanting feedback from you guys. We are always trying to figure out the best way to educate our audience. So there will be just a 1-question survey about the webinar at the end that I'll post in the chat. It's also in the polls area right now. So at the end of the webinar, if you guys wouldn't mind helping a girl out and letting me know, basically the question is, would you recommend this to a friend? And then you rate it on a multiple choice scale. So super easy to just go in there and let us know what you thought, and if you would recommend it to someone that you love and care about in your life. All righty, let's get Michael up here. I'm going to invite him on screen. You guys, I am convinced that he has the coolest name, Tatonetti, Michael Tatonetti. That is just so cool. I love to say it. He is a pricing expert and he is ready to drop some knowledge on you guys today. So I'm so excited to get him up here and help him help you guys guide through your different pricing strategies. So whether you're just starting out or whether you're years down the road trying to figure out navigating raising your prices, that is what we're going to focus on today. So let's get Michael on up here to introduce himself to you guys. He's going to go through the agenda of what he's planning to talk about. I'm going to have him take over the slides. Hi, Michael.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be here. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, aren't you loving the chat? It's just giving me life right now.
It is. And I loved seeing everybody talking about setting up their HoneyBook and what they do. I think that's dope for everybody to connect. So yeah, I love it. I love the HoneyBook community. I'm a HoneyBook user, as you know, and I love the community. Love it.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, I'm going to pass the slides over to you so we can get going here on our agenda. Amazing.
Awesome. All right. So what we're going to do today is a quick how-to on pricing. I'm going to tell you up front, you're not going to walk away knowing how to set your exact price, but I do think you're going to walk away with some really great things to consider and questions to answer. So without further ado, what we're going to cover first are these three big buckets. So how do you choose your pricing method? What are the different options? How do you define your value? Because your value is linked to your pricing and how you sell it. And then something practical, which is how to project your income and your work. I don't know about you, but as a small business owner, I need to kind of have an idea of how many projects do I need to book per month to hit my annual goals and pay everybody. So when it comes to choosing your pricing method, again, I would highly recommend watching the replay to like go over it one more time after.
Yeah.
But there
Michael,
are
really quick. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Can you just, I feel like I didn't even do you justice in introducing yourself. Can you give people, give them an idea of who you are, why we should trust you, why we love you? Yeah,
I'll put my email so y'all have it. So I'm Michael. I am a certified pricing professional, which is very uncommon in the creative space. I'm one of 3 people globally that help small businesses with pricing. Most CPPs work at like Walmart, Apple, Starbucks. So we're really good at pricing. We get how to price, how to position, how to do value. So if you need any help after, you can email me, michael@michaeltatonetti.com. But that's what my team and I do. We're a small business of 3, and we use HoneyBook for everything. And I'm excited to share about pricing because of that. So yeah, Mac, thank you for that. So when we talk about pricing, there are 5 methods that you can use, and you might do a combination. I'm just going to quickly go through them, but you can definitely like look these up online and get more in depth. The first one is competitive. So that's where you look at your competitors and you price based on what they're doing. So if you do Squarespace web design, how much is somebody else charging, or photography, or whatever the case might be. The problem with competitive is they may not have a good pricing strategy. So it might be the blind following the blind. And on top of that, your value may not match with what they offer anyway. So I think that competitive is good to look at, but not how to price. The next one's cost plus. That's really easy if you're like a product-based business. You look at your costs. If something costs you, let's say you sell t-shirts and it's $10 per t-shirt and you want to make $10 per shirt, you're going to sell it for 20. So you add. If you're a service-based provider, we usually take our time. So we say, okay, this project might take 50 hours and I want to make whatever per hour. So that's my rate. That's better, but it's still not the best way to price. So it's okay to do that. I would start there if you're going to do one of those 2. The next one is skimming. That's where you start high and you say, okay, I think I could get $10,000, let's say, or $3,000 for a project. And then if no one buys after a few sales calls, you start going a little bit lower until you sell. And then you go, okay, that's where it's at. But then you're not losing money because you're not underselling or underpricing, but you're losing deals. Penetration is the opposite. It's where you start lower and then you go up. So, okay, I sold a package for $1,500. Now I'm going to try $2,000 and then maybe $2,500 until someone says no. And then I'm going to figure that out. But the problem with that is you leave money on the table because those first few sales you might have been able to have charged more. The best one is value-based pricing. And basically it's saying, here's the value, what you're going to get, the ROI, and that's what we're pricing based on. So not necessarily what everybody else is doing or our insecurity, but like what you're getting from working with us. So with that, when we talk about defining your value, this is important because if you're going to price based on your value, these are some of the questions that you want to ask. It's hard to get to an answer. I'm not going to lie. You're not, again, don't feel like you failed if you walk away like, I'm not quite sure. The goal of this is just to walk away being able to answer these questions and consider them for the next week or two. But what is the outcome that they receive and how is that different from others? Maybe if you're a photographer, your style is a bit different. Maybe you have a better customer experience and you don't drop the ball because you use HoneyBook, right? Like truly, I get compliments all the time about my customer journey from paying clients. And what I also like to say here is look at both the quantitative and the qualitative value prop. What I mean by that is like a numerical value. If you design websites or you do social media strategy, how many hours per month are you saving your client? And how much more can they do because you've saved them 50 hours in the month by paying you? Or an emotional outcome. Like I like to think through Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So shout out to those of us that took Psych 101 if you went to undergrad and thought, I'm never going to really use this, like algebra, but I do, like in my business. And I would highly recommend go pull that pyramid back up, Google Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and think through those. How do I make people feel like they belong? How, you may not be helping them with their physiological needs or their safety needs. You might though, but how do you help them feel loved and belong through your process? How do you make, like, again, a wedding photographer, like how do you make the couple feel secure that this one shot that they have to get the right photos, they can trust you to do that? Those are your value propositions. So consider like what pricing method, and then if you're going to go with value, what is the value? What are the differentiators? And then otherwise, once you've decided that you kind of have an idea of your price, this is where I like to work backwards. So the formula that I use here is my ideal income. That's after paying my staff. I have a few contractors that work for me, taxes, costs for like HoneyBook and all my other tech platforms. And then I divide it by how many months I want to work per year. You might do how many weeks or how many days or whatever. I personally like to work 9 months out of the year and have 1 month for personal time off, 1 month for strategic planning, and then one other month where like my kid gets sick and I need to take a week off, right? So I try to plan to only generate revenue 9 months out of the year. So in this case, if my goal is $100,000 and my profit per project is $1,850, so maybe I'm charging $3,000, but then I'm paying taxes and my subs and all that, then I would need to do 6 projects per month. So for me, this is easier once you have an idea of your pricing and your profit after your costs to say, okay, here's what I make, here's how much I need to do, and it gives you an objective goal to work towards. So I'm going to stop there for right now. We're going to hit some more on pricing in a bit, but I'm going to pass it back to Mac, and we're going to talk about HoneyBook now.
Awesome. Yeah, and I feel like this is like one of my favorite topics to talk about too. My fiance is actually launching his business this year, and he is a professional dog walker, and I'm constantly encouraging him to understand his value and charge his worth. And it's hard, you guys. Like, it's hard to know, like, you know, especially when you're starting out. I think so many people think, oh, I just have to take what I can get. I can't even tell you how many times he said this to me. And I'm like, no, you don't. The business will come. You have to price for your value. And imagine if you're pricing for your value, maybe you don't need to take everything you can get because you're pricing a little bit higher. So I want to encourage everyone to hear today. This is something that I was encouraging him to do earlier this week. Oftentimes I feel your biggest value is your blind spot. Okay, so let me tell you what I mean by this. Oftentimes the thing that you're really, really good at, you're so good at it that you don't realize it's a unique value prop. So my fiance, for example, he's an incredible communicator and he's really, really good at people management. As you might imagine, that's not a very common thing in the dog walking industry. It's kind of a transient industry, people in between careers, people at the end of retirement. They're not people. They're just filling their time with something fun. So for him, this is his unique value prop, and it's also his blind spot because he assumes that all people are people and good communicators and relational. So that's his blind spot, and I was encouraging him to recognize that and price accordingly. So I want to encourage all of you guys to think that way, identify, you know, your value props and those maybe blind spots in your business that your clients are going to want to hire you for that unique value prop. So don't be afraid to to be a little confident around those areas too. So just want to encourage you guys to think that way. Let's go into a little HoneyBook demo here, okay? So I'm going to share with you guys, for starters, just a general kind of demo HoneyBook account. And then in a couple minutes here, we are going to invite up Nikki, who I'm so excited to introduce to you guys. She is, I mean, just based off of her HoneyBook account alone, I can't wait to show you. Okay, so let's get started with this here. Probably pretty familiar to you guys. I'm inside of the HoneyBook templates section and I'm under packages. So if you're just starting out, if you're still trying to establish your pricing, or if you're just starting out with the HoneyBook system, you probably, hopefully, you know, this is kind of the first area to stop, okay? Because you need to get your pricing and services built into the HoneyBook system, starting in this packages area. I see a lot of people start in maybe invoice templates because that makes a little bit more sense logically speaking, or just verbally we identify invoices as our pricing, or people start out in brochures because they've maybe attended another HoneyBook webinar and they know that this is where they build a pricing guide or something like that, which we'll go into a little bit later. But actually the first place you want to start in HoneyBook is the packages section. This is your very foundational building block of allowing the HoneyBook system to work as hard as possible for you. So what I mean by that is once you have these packages established, then you can go on. And by the way, packages is a little misleading. This is really just your pricing. This could be, as you see here, an hourly rate. This could be a blog post. This could be a coaching package or an actual package with a bunch of services listed underneath it. So it's anything that you charge for that is a service you provide. That's what packages are in HoneyBook. But once you have these set up, then you can go on to build invoices, proposals, brochures, and actually I'm going to show you how to do all of that today. So I want to show you guys just an example of some different formats that you can do when you're setting up your pricing in HoneyBook, because there's a couple different ways to do it, and it really just depends on what you find visually appealing and what makes the most sense for your business model. So it's oftentimes difficult for me to speak specifically on how to do this because it really is a per business basis. So I'm just going to show you a couple examples, and whatever speaks to you, just go ahead and run with it because that's probably going to be the best move anyway. So to give you an idea, this is kind of the standard HoneyBook format for, you know, setting up a package. You've got the header up here describing what the package includes. You've got the header price, and then you have these individual items listed underneath that are included and wrapped up into this larger package. That's kind of the standard HoneyBook format. The way that you get these little items underneath is by adding a new item, and it'll just pull it in. You can add descriptions under these things. So this is more for someone who's maybe offering a really inclusive package that has a lot of little things and details underneath it that you want to itemize out for your client. And also a really good way to kind of convey that value, right? Rather than just saying core services, this is the price. You're actually listing out the value of what they're receiving and what they'll be getting and the value that comes along with that. Okay, so this is just one example. Another way to format it, if this isn't really singing your song, another way that I see people do this, or sometimes that I set it up, and specifically I think this can be helpful when we're in the realm of brochures, which we're going to go into a little bit later. I think the format, oh, that's not the right one. I think the format for this actually works a little bit better because it's a little bit more condensed. So you'll see here, rather than having the items listed out, 1 hour phone consult, design board with recommendations, 2 hours of consult services, I've just bulleted them here. And this makes it a little bit more condensed. So when you're creating a big brochure describing all the different things that you do, this is just a more condensed way of conveying that information to your clients. So depending on how you represent what you do to your clients, these are some different options of how to display a package that has multiple inclusions within it. And then, of course, we can have more a la carte add-on type services. And this is basically the format of what that would look like, right? You've got your hourly rate, your quantities, and then you can price it here. And then when you go to bill a client for this, super easy to update the quantity here to reflect the work that you've done or the work that you predict you'll be doing. Okay, so that's our little intro to packages. Now, in order to show you guys more about the brochure file, I want to get Mickey up here so that we can go through her specific file. You guys, prepare to be impressed. I was very impressed when I saw this file. I actually had to, I'm going to invite her up on screen. I actually had to open it up ahead of time in order for it to load because it is so dense and beautiful and has so much content in it. I can't wait to show it to you guys. So we're getting Mickey up here. I'm going to pull up her brochure while we get her up here as well. And then we're just going to kind of go through what she's really doing right, where we think maybe she can add a little bit more, where she can maybe improve a little bit, and just kind of talk through her process a little bit so you guys can start to get an understanding and maybe relate some of what you do to what she does and kind of hear our specific feedback on the use cases that she has for her business and sending this brochure file. But just to kind of quickly introduce you to what a brochure file can do, there's really kind of three key components in a brochure file. Okay, so you can add content, which is text and images. You can add questions, similar to the contact form or a questionnaire, or you can add your services. So the service blocks are really awesome because you can actually display your offerings to your audience and they can make a selection of what services they want to move forward with. So really cool service selector option there for your clients to say, hey, yeah, these are the services or a la cartes or items that I'm interested in. They can even choose their own quantities around things. So really powerful stuff there. I'm actually going to go into that in our second part of the HoneyBook demo later in the webinar, and we'll be able to see how it works in the HoneyBook system to go through the client side experience, to make those selections, how that turns into a HoneyBook proposal, and then we'll go through the proposal kind of walkthrough as well. So let's see here. I think Mickey should be coming on screen pretty soon. It says she's accepting and connecting, and I know sometimes you've got to set your video and mic parameters and everything. So maybe let's go ahead and get started while she comes up here, just to kind of show you guys some of the things that I think she did really right. Okay, so obviously she's got some fabulously branded content here. My guess is she probably used a program like Canva to create something like this, but I'd love to hear a little bit more from her on how she did this. And then in regards to, a content block like this, you can change background colors, you can highlight the text and change the text font, the size, how bold it is, the colors. So you can really get custom here in terms of branding this document to fit your needs and make sure that you're still conveying that kind of branding. No worries, Mickey, don't worry about it. It still says it's accepted and you're connecting, but I don't know what is going on either. Maybe we can just move to doing chat if that's easier for you. So Mickey, I would love to know, my biggest question for you is the use case for this document in your business. So when Michael and I were checking this out together yesterday, we noticed that you have basically every service that you offer in this file. So my guess was that you've built this out so that depending on the conversation that you have with the client, you can just remove what's irrelevant, and that way everything else that you need is there and you can hit send on it to send it out to your clients. But tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if you like to share everything with your clients and you don't remove anything, or what kind of the use case with this document is. And while you type that out, I'll continue to kind of walk everyone through how this file works. Okay, another thing she's done really right here, you guys, she's introduced herself. Utilize these content blocks to introduce yourself and build that relationship with your audience. Let them know who you are, why they should trust you. And this is another great way to kind of display some of your unique value and some of your unique value propositions that you're offering to your audience. What makes you special, what makes you different, what you're going to be able to do for them, and why you get it, right? So that's another thing. You got to build a little bit of that trust, why you're someone that they can trust, why you understand what they're doing and why you're the best person for the job. And you can keep that short and sweet. I know I rattled off a ton of things that you could use there, but you can keep it short and sweet. I mean, this is the right size. This is not going to overwhelm your audience. They're still going to take the time to read this and make sure that it's a good fit. Okay, so Mickey says, when I started the brochure, I was still figuring out how to articulate my services. So I basically offered everything I wanted to help clients with. So this brochure is a bit of everything I do. Got it. Now that my business is growing, I'm looking at refining my offering so I don't continue to give away the store. I love it. Okay, yes. So that was kind of what Michael and I were talking about as well, because I think from a client perspective, to receive this much content could be a little overwhelming. So Michael and I were talking about the idea of, maybe using this as something that you share before your consult call, either to just display some basic information. So maybe we have a couple different brochures for your business model. Okay, so maybe we have one that's a little bit more of an introduction to who you are and your services, but there's no service selection component. It's really just getting to know them. Maybe there's some questions, some FAQs. It's more informational. And then the call to action. So if you guys have attended to our webinars in the past, you know that we love to just say one call to action per document, right? Okay, so the call to action in that document would be information and book a call. So the call to action is book a call. It's not to select services. You just want one call to action per document always. So it would be information, book a call, and then post the call. Now you have a better idea of who they are, what they're interested in, if you guys are even a good fit, and what services. Maybe you get an idea for budget on that call. And Michael and I were talking about the idea of actually asking the question, hey, what services of those are you interested in? Here's what I kind of see as a good strategy for us to approach with. Do you agree? Here are some add-ons that I think you might find value from based off of our conversation, and really just be able to do that more face-to-face, and then having the second brochure you send have that service selector and maybe one or two upsell opportunities, but you don't have to give away the store like you're saying. So that way you can keep it a little bit more condensed. It'll feel a little bit more tailored and personalized to your audience based off of that call. Maybe you even leave a couple little placeholders in here for yourself in the template to include a reference back to the call. Hey, so great to chat with you today. Based off of our conversation around X, Y, and Z, I really think these service offerings are going to be a perfect fit. I've also included some extra services that clients have found a ton of value in, and then maybe even articulate the value that they specifically have found from those higher services. So that would be our recommendation here. I know I've been talking a lot without scrolling through this gorgeous file. So I'm going to give you guys, so Mickey, I think this is the perfect example, right? Services. This is like, this breakdown here is the perfect thing to include in that initial informative document without having to have, this section where you're, showing your full portfolio. And then again, down here, you're describing the pricing for those services and things like that. We can keep it a little condensed where we're just describing the services, maybe asking some questions of them, and then pushing them to book that call, which you guys, she has all of that. She has all of that in here. She's doing it all right. It's just all in one file. So let me show you. I also love that she does testimonials. I know Michael will talk all about this too, talking about testimonials, including that in your brochure. I think that makes sense in both the first iteration we've discussed and the second iteration, just to continue to showcase that value and really maybe even give a little bit of that FOMO feeling, right? Like, hey, other people have been really successful with this. Like, don't you wish this was how you felt, kind of a thing? And then at the bottom, she's got her book a call action. One recommendation I did have here too, Mickey, is to do, I know you have this link to your HoneyBook scheduling, which you guys, she's crushing it. We love this. Connecting HoneyBook features. This is like, I live for this. I love this. So one suggestion I did have here, just to make it really clear that this is something that they can click on, I often recommend to change the font a little bit. I think people are used to seeing a hyperlink underlined as well. So I might recommend underlining and bolding just to make sure that your clients know that this is a clickable action. Because I would say right now, I might, as a client, think book a call with me, and then email. I email her to book that call. I might not necessarily know that this is a clickable action. So that's just a quick little best practice to make sure that your clients know that that's where they need to be clicking their mouse. And I might even say, click here to book a call with me to make it extra obvious. Okay, that's kind of time for all of this. Mickey, let me know if you have any other questions. She did use Canva to build out these documents. She loves how it breaks down the blocks. Amazing. Yeah, so breaking down the information over here does help make it a little bit more digestible. So yeah, I would say maybe keep it to 5 and under. I think 5 would be kind of the max that I would want to send to a client, just so they don't feel like they're scrolling and having to, you don't want to give too much on their plate, basically. Awesome, you guys. I think this is really helpful. I'm seeing a lot of love in the chat. So, Michael, I think I'm going to pass it back to you to get a little better idea of what you recommend when it comes to really selling your services.
Awesome. Yeah. And I saw Renessa said the same thing. That's what I do. I have like a high level brochure before the call, but then I send a custom brochure before the proposal to make sure. So yeah, I love what everybody's saying. This chat is phenomenal. All right. So what do you do after you set some prices, you set up your packages and your brochure? Now what? Now it's time to move into proposal and really having that sales call. So what I want to hit on are a couple of keynotes from value-based selling. So again, if you're selling the value, we've got to stick with it. So my first few notes are sell the value. Keep bringing up what differentiates you. What is the outcome? What can they expect? And because you're using HoneyBook, they should have already had a taste of what to expect and you delivering on promises, because they should have already had a great seamless client experience from inquiry to sales call. So if your HoneyBook is set up and you're rocking it out, like they already are building trust with you that you will deliver on what you're saying you will once they sign on the dotted line and pay a retainer and book with you or with your company. Now, I always like to bring that up during the sales call as well. Like, this is what we're anticipating, and is that what you're looking for? Because then they buy into it and say, yeah, that's exactly what we need, so where do we sign? Now, if you get to a negotiation spot, I think this is something that creatives especially get very afraid of. Like, we can be afraid to negotiate and have to have that conversation. My best tip is to use this first bullet, yes, if. And here's what I mean by that. If, let's say you have a $3,000 package, and I'm going to keep it real simple. Let's say it's like social media management and you give 30 posts a month for $3,000, right? Now you're giving strategy, all that stuff too. So they're not just paying for the posts. But if we take that 3,000 divided by 30, that's about $100 per post, inclusive of strategy and all of the work and the data analysis that you do. If they say, great, we love this, but our budget is $2,000 per month, what I typically say is not, no, sorry, you can't book with me. But I also don't say yes, like, sure, I'll do it for $2,000. No, my price is my price, and I'm confident in my price. What I say is, yes, we can do $2,000 if we adjust the value of the package to this. So instead of 30, pieces of content per month or 30 posts, maybe it is 20. So we can do 20 posts for $2,000 per month. And then if your budget, grows, or as you see the value, then yeah, we can up it to our typical package. So yes, we can if we do this. We have to take something away. If they're taking money away, we're taking value away. Otherwise, what if you don't have a set package? I'm sure there are people on here who are starting out. I've seen so many people in the chat saying, I just launched this. What do you do if you don't have a package set up already? Just start. That's something that Mac and I were talking about this past week. Just start somewhere. It's not going to be perfect. Anyone who's been in business more than 1 year, especially probably more than like 3 for sure, will tell you the amount of iterations that your packaging goes through. Not just your pricing, but like there are things 6 months ago that were not in my packaging that I realized needed to be, and my clients were asking for, and I needed to add it in. So your packaging will change, but you need to start somewhere and start with something. So that goes back to picking one of the pricing methods and going for it. You might fail, but you'll fail forward, and you'll keep trying, and you'll grow, and you will get better. Everybody has to start somewhere. So just start and sell and see what happens. All right, I'm going to pass it back to Mac to talk a bit about the proposal process.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say too, like, just because you're diving in and starting and having to iterate and having to adjust things, whether that be your pricing or your service or anything, that doesn't delegitimize you. is that even a word? That doesn't like, that doesn't discredit you. That doesn't mean you don't have your stuff together. That doesn't mean you're not worth it. That doesn't mean that you don't have it together. That just is growth. And like I said, oftentimes those things are your blind spots. And as you start to build your business, you're going to get to know your clients and your audience and your ideal client even better. This is something else when it comes to pricing. Sometimes you price for your ideal client, not just anyone who's willing to book your service, because maybe you have a specific client in mind that you want to service, and you can price accordingly because those individuals are willing to pay the price for the quality service that you provide. So don't be afraid to say no. This is another big pricing thing that I'm always talking about too. Don't be afraid to turn people away, to turn people off, to say no to business. Sometimes if you're pricing and you're value-based pricing, like Michael said, there's going to be people who try to lowball you. You need to make sure that that value is there so that when they're lowballing you, they also have to understand that, okay, that's going to come with a cost. My price is associated with a value. So if you would like to lower the cost, we'll need to eliminate some of the value of what I'm giving. And in that way, the value is, the understanding of your value is still there. So when they come back to book you in the future, they recommend you to friends, they're accurately conveying what you offer, and you've set the right expectations. Pricing is all about setting expectations. Running a business is all about setting expectations, which is why we talk about just having one call to action in your documents. Your clients are coming to you expecting you to be the expert. They want you to tell them how to get done what they need to get done. If you're a web designer, they don't know anything about web design. That's why they're coming to you. So it's up to you to set that expectation, to set those clear actions for them, to convey that value and let them know what that value is. Odds are they don't know. So that leaves you as the expert. So do it. Okay, let's go into our demo here. You guys, I told you this is my favorite topic to talk about. I'm going to be ranting. Okay, let's take a look. So I want to show you guys, like I said, the client experience of the brochure file. So we were just taking a look at Mickey's brochure file. Now, if she was to send a version of that, we're actually going to take a look at Michael's brochure file. So if we were to send that off and the service selection component is there, this would be what your client would ultimately receive. Okay, so they have in their inbox kind of your standard looking HoneyBook email with a prompt to open the file that you've shared. Okay, so if we go ahead and take a look at this file, they're going to click into it. It's going to open up, which my computer sounds like an airplane about to take off, y'all. I've got so many windows open right now. We're working hard over here. Once this comes up, we're going to be able to take a look at Michael's brochure and the service selecting component of it. We're going to be able to check out how he is able to convey his value to his clients, and his different breakdown of, the information that he conveys to his clients. So Michael, I'm guessing because this is your service selector file, that this is the one that you would send post a consultation call and have it be a little bit more tailored.
Correct. Yeah. And like I add between Hey Team, I usually put the company name. So like, Hey Starbucks Team. And then otherwise I adjust the sections as appropriate. So yes.
Love it. Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of what I was talking about when I was referencing leaving like a placeholder for yourself. The brochure file, you can always customize it. Any file in HoneyBook, you can always customize it a little bit before you send it out. So leaving a little placeholder like this for yourself as an indication to say, hey, this is where, I intend to customize this a little bit, can be a really nice way to make your clients feel like you've made this completely tailored document for them, when in reality, you've just changed a couple words around or something. Okay, so this is what it looks like from the client side. We have Michael's intro. We've got branding elements. We have an ROI section. So Michael touched a little bit on this. ROI for different businesses and different business models and different audiences mean different things. So ROI could mean literally your return on investment financially. This is what you will get back monetarily if you invest with me. It could mean time back. It could mean time saved. It could mean peace of mind. In the example where we're talking about wedding photography, I mean, I'm a bride. You guys know this. I've been talking about it already. And I can't tell you how nice it is 100%. I'm also obviously in the industry working with business owners, so I'm a little picky, but I can't tell you how nice it is to be working with people who get it and know the craft and have done 1.5 million weddings. I'm only planning on doing it once, haven't done it before. I need help. I'm expecting them to be the expert. They're setting that expectation, giving me that peace of mind. That's my ROI. So conveying that to your clients, reiterating that, letting them know, hey, this is how it goes in this industry. This is how I work. This is what you're going to get out of this. That is such an crucial part of the sales process, in my opinion. So always include something like this, and then some kind of testimonial aspect as well. Michael has his down at the bottom to kind of put a nice little conclusion on his service selections. But just to give you guys a glimpse, this is what the service selector will look like. So HoneyBook kind of puts this general formatting in here based off of the parameters that you set. So you can allow your clients in the brochure file to select more than one, to require them to select one, to update quantities. You kind of set the parameters on how they interact with this file. You can also just remove the service selector altogether. So you control that, and then HoneyBook will put this blurb in based off of what you set inside of the settings, which in the brochure file, I should have showed you guys, but when you add a service block, there's a little gear icon in this area of the page, and that's where you control those parameters. But from the client side, they're able to check a box and select. I've selected this one, but there's multiple different options. You can see here too, Michael has set these packages up with actually the steps, his timeline. He's used the packages in the HoneyBook system that we were checking out earlier to set the timeline expectation with his clients. So that's another way you can use the formatting. So you can get creative, again, depending on your business model. That's why it's impossible for me to teach a webinar on how everyone can do it, because everyone's business is different. So that's got to be up to you guys to know your business well enough to know how to use the HoneyBook format to best serve you. Okay, so let's get down here. I also love that Michael has made each package its own block. So right away, if they know what they're interested in, they can skip there. But we've also got a nice branded header image. And we'll come on down to the bottom where we can check out the review. So your clients are always going to have a review section where they can see what they've selected. So we've got a full day strategic intensive and a pricing and value roadmap 12-week project that we've selected. And I've actually already submitted this. I did it last night. So let's take a look at the business side so we can get an idea of how this impacts the company who ultimately this was submitted for. And I think this is the project that I did it in. I should have written it down, I'm realizing now. So I'm hoping that this is the right one, you guys. Let's see if it'll let me click into it. Seriously, you guys can probably hear my computer. Yeah, okay, I chose the right one. Amazing. Okay, let's take a look. So once this file is submitted, a brochure file is submitted, your clients have made the selections, you'll be notified. Obviously, HoneyBook loves to tell you everything that's going on in your account. So you'll be notified. You can pop right into the project. So it would be easier than just guessing like I just did. You would know the project that it's in because HoneyBook would notify you. You can come right in here. You'll come into the Files tab and you'll see exactly this. Okay, so we've got a brochure file submitted and we have a proposal file in draft. Okay. So the proposal file, if you guys aren't familiar with it, I'm going to give you a quick pitch. You all should be using it if you collect contract signature and payment on the same day. When you book your clients, if you expect them to review a legal document and sign that and submit payment on the same day, you should 100% be sending a proposal file. That is what the file does. It combines invoice and contract. So I want to show you what it looks like. You can always create these manually, but when you use the brochure file service selector, HoneyBook is going to take what your client selected in the brochure, and turn it into a proposal. Again, we're just leaving it in draft mode. We're not sending it to your client for you. We're leaving it in draft mode so you can kind of proof our work, make sure that the right contract is attached there, make sure the payment schedule is reflecting what you want it to reflect, and then you can send it off to your clients. You always get the final stamp of approval. You always get the opportunity to change whatever you need to change, personalize it, tailor it, whatever you need to do, but it's here, the work is already done. So like we checked out before, the full service strategic intensive is here and the pricing and value roadmap. So everything I just selected in that brochure is now put into this proposal. But let's say the client called me afterwards and they were like, oh, I changed my mind. I don't want to do the full service. No problem. We're going to go ahead and just trash can that item. Super easy to customize on a client by client basis. And maybe, like Michael said, we had a conversation where they're going to do this 12-week program, but they actually want to skip week 1 and get a discount. So we're going to go ahead and adjust that for them accordingly. Okay, so really easy, again, to customize anything you need based off of the client's specific use case while still using the function of that brochure file. We can adjust payment plan down here, and we've got our contract. Now I want to show you guys again the client view of what this file looks like, because I think that's kind of one of the bigger gaps maybe in the HoneyBook system is oftentimes you don't know what your client is getting. So that's why I really want to focus on that in the webinar today so that you guys can kind of get that experience. Okay, so we already went through what the brochure file looks like from the client side. The proposal file is kind of like an estimate. It's a little bit more tailored to them, obviously, because you've adjusted some pricing and some things to fit their needs. But the first page is kind of like an estimate or a quote. They're reviewing what they're going to be receiving and they're reviewing the payment plan. But it does have the ability for them to continue on to the contract. So it's got an assumptive close. So it's got the ability for them to continue on to the contract if they're ready to continue moving forward with booking you. All these smart fields are already filling out. Anything that you need to fill out is highlighted and tagged. They've got their signature line down at the bottom. Once they have signed, they have the ability to pay. So this is something that's a little bit different in our demo that I'm showing you right now. Your client will not have the ability to pay until they have signed this document. That makes sure that everything is legally binding and you're always protected. So again, if you're someone who collects signature and payment on the same day, this is the best way to do it because it kind of protects your payment by saying, hey, you have to agree to my legal terms of working with me so that we have to be on the same page. Just another great way to set expectations with your clients and make sure that you guys are on the same page. You'll be legally protected. They'll sign the document and then they'll go on to the payments page where they can go ahead and add credit card information or attach a bank account and go ahead and pay you directly here. Okay, we're getting close to crunch time. I want to pass it back to Michael to wrap this up, and then I see you guys have some questions coming through. Send all your questions our way. I'm going to grab them so we can take them in the last kind of 10 minutes here.
Awesome. Okay, so last thing here that we really want to cover, there we go, got to make sure to share it. All right, is some additional notes that I just think are important around pricing. Once you set the price, I'm sure in a month or two, you're going to think of these. So we wanted to be proactive. So how often should you raise your prices? Once you set them, what do you do? Or if you've already set them, you already have packaging, what I always recommend is an annual review. So when I said I'd like to take a month off to strategically plan, part of that is looking at my packages, what people have bought, what the pricing has been, and do I think there are any adjustments? I do recommend increasing your price a little bit every year, even if it's like 5%, 3%. Go up a little bit. If you're at 3,000, maybe go to 3,300 or 3,100. Always increase your pricing a little bit because it will normalize that your prices do go up for anyone who comes back as a repeat client. Of course, honor anyone who's in a contract, right? But if they renew or do something new, I always like to go up. And then every like 2 to 3 years, really you could do this every year. But if you don't, if you're afraid to, if it's uncomfortable, then every 2 to 3 years, absolutely do a deep dive and really do an increase in your pricing, or at least come up with some new upsells. That thing 6 months ago that my clients kept asking for, that became the 12-week iteration versus the 8-week of my own packaging. I'm like, okay, the 8-week is the minimum viable. We can do what we need to do. But if you want to spend an extra month, that's fine. Here's the extra cost. So yes, we can do that. But look at it, and every 2 to 3 years, really make some drastic changes. I think that's important for you to get comfortable, and you're behaviorally training your clients in that as well.
Awesome, guys. Okay,
So I think we're at questions, Beck.
Yeah, we are. And I see there's some questions that people put into the question section, which I love. If you guys wouldn't mind now too, the poll is there down at the bottom. I would really appreciate if you guys could participate in that poll for us. Just let us know how this webinar impacted you and if you would recommend it to a friend. I would so appreciate it. So Kevin asked, will this webinar cover proposal strategies? I hope that the proposal demo that we just did covered some of your questions. Kevin, if you have more specific like strategy questions or how to strategize with a proposal, feel free to hop those into the chat and I'd be happy to take a look. Michael and I can take a look together. Let's see. Renessa says, do you have any recommendations when you're a service provider in an area where small businesses do not have the budget to spend what your value is? Michael, can you help me out with this one? What are your opinions?
Yeah, I have two thoughts. One is, unfortunately, then you might not have a good business model. And I say that lovingly, like if you can't serve a need at the price, then you might have to adjust the value. So it doesn't mean you don't have a business, but like that one might not work. You might need to pull back the value and say, what are smaller components that I can offer? But the other thing I would say is, are there other markets, other verticals that you can move into? Maybe what you do can't go digital. Like maybe you do something that's in person, right? Like, I don't even know, like let's say you do yoga instruction or something that can be virtual, but really should be in person. Then also consider, can you adjust your target market? So basically you either need to adjust your packaging to meet that market, or you need to adjust the market that can accept that packaging. That's just like business. It has to make sense on both ends. So I would look at those two things.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, Renessa, I would love to know a little bit more about like what specific business offerings you have, because I think Michael brings up a great point, because if you're geographically, tied down for what you're doing, then your question makes sense. But maybe we can digitize what you're doing a little bit so that you can sell in San Francisco, the most expensive city in the world, So maybe we can be a little bit more flexible there. Great question. Tough one to answer. Is there a way to change the text from view brochure in the client view emails? There is not, Zariah. It's always, the buttons in the emails are always default to say view and then whatever the file type is. So more customizations coming later this year, I promise you guys. So great foresight there, Zariah. Let's see. Mariah says, sorry, I just logged in. Did we already go over contracts, like sending a proposal without the contract? This was a question I got actually a couple times in the chat as well. Yes, you can absolutely send a proposal without a contract. That's just an invoice, guys. So all you have to do is click new file, invoice, and then that'll send basically the exact proposal file without that third page, including the contract. So you can always send a contract and an invoice separately. I find majority of the calls that I have with our members are around sending that booking file in the same day to officiate that booking and make that final. So usually that is the proposal file doing the trick. But if you need to do it separately, absolutely. You've got an invoice and a contract option. You can send those separately if you'd like. Let's see. Shannon says, any tips for communicating with clients after you've raised your prices, i.e. why you've done so and what they're getting for the price? Michael, take that one for me.
Yeah, so I think of like Netflix, Disney, if you have a subscription to that, anything like that. What they always communicate is what they've added and keep it short and simple. So I would say something like, we're so excited. We've listened to our customers. You have been asking for ABC. We're delivering that, and we now have this new packaging or this new pricing. So because we've added more programming, or because we're adding more photos, or because we're adding a second shooter who can capture even more of your precious moments, we're excited to offer this, and this is the new package. So I would just kind of focus on the value, again, value-based pricing, and then just state it matter of fact and leave it alone. Don't over-communicate either. We tend to want to talk a lot. Like literally when I get an email from Netflix about a price increase, it's like 3 sentences long. That's it. As effective March 1st, you're going up to $16.99 because we've added Dave Chappelle and all this other great programming. And I'm just like, okay, that's it.
I'm not going to not pay for it.
Yeah. Don't over communicate. You can, and because then it looks desperate or like you're nervous. That's fine. Run it by a friend who can tell you cross out all these other sentences. But that's how I would do it. That's a great question, Shannon.
Yeah, that is a really good question. I definitely think when it comes to pricing and price increases, say less. say less. If your clients have questions or concerns, they will let you know, and you can have those conversations in a one-off cadence, but definitely say less when it comes to pricing, because that comes across confident, right? Like if you're able to provide a bullet list of like, hey, these are the 6 things I did this year that make my price this much more, short and sweet, nobody's going to contest that, right? They can't say, no, you didn't. So keep it short and sweet. I love that. Erin has a question about HoneyBook integrating with Google Sheets for daily data entry and formulas. I don't know if that's really a priority of ours. I haven't gotten that request too much, Erin. So it's not on the roadmap right now, but that is a good question. And I'll definitely let our product team know that it came up in today's webinar for sure. Is there a way to invoice the client bi-weekly if each invoice will be different? There absolutely is. I would say if that's the case, you'll probably be sending a new invoice each week, since the service is provided or the value or the price point is changing. That would probably be the best method. Another way you could do it is we actually added milestone payments in HoneyBook as a payment due date. So you can always go into an invoice and change what you've done. So if you send the initial invoice out to the client to collect initial payment, and then you have 3 milestone-based payment due dates, you can go into that document later on, adjust what services they've received, adjust the price, and say that milestone has been completed, and then it'll bill the client accordingly. So I might recommend checking that out, Natasha. Let's see. I live in an area where there are a ton of other photographers, and most potential clients and businesses don't find the value in paying me more when someone with less experience. Do you have any tips? Take that one, Michael.
Yeah, Josh, that's good. This to me is where content marketing is a game changer. So to me, I don't ever like to speak against others. I hate that marketing tactic, but I like to speak what I am for. So I might use case studies, even if it's like a fake example, but it's like a scenario, right? So it might be like, imagine like the power that headshots can have on your website, like if you're a headshot photographer. Or again, if you're, I don't know, doing like food photography, like how much better can it be? So, or again, wedding to me is easy. Family portraits, like once in a lifetime memories. So I would almost speak to like, I had a client come to me, this is a hypothetical, but I had a client come to me like frustrated. And now this is a qualitative value prop. They were frustrated, they had spent money and they didn't get what they wanted. And they spent all this money on hair, makeup, whatever the setup involves. And they went the cheap route and they were not happy. And now they came to me and we were able to redo and capture everything, but it was an expensive lesson. So I think like whatever mode you like to use, if you podcast or blog or write social media statuses or go live or whatever, but like tell some of those stories as a part of your content marketing. And don't be afraid to do that. Again, don't bash anyone in particular, but speak about what you're for. We make sure this does not happen. That's the expertise that you're paying for. So you can go to somebody else and they might do a great job. That's your decision, but we avoid these things. So if you care about that, we're probably a good fit.
Yep, absolutely. And I think speaking to your years in business too, this was something that came up a lot in conversation since your question is photography specific. I think I probably talked to about 6 photographers before we ended up booking. And the thing that really stuck out with our photographer, love her. We talked to a lot of photographers that were super bubbly and brand new and excited to be here. And I like instantly connected with them because I was like, oh my God, we're going to be best friends. And it was like so exciting. That relational aspect was there. That was their value, right? But when we finally talked to our photographer, she was calm. She wasn't super bubbly. She wasn't super outgoing, but she knew what the heck she was talking about. She talked to me all about, here's the timeline that I typically go through every day. Here's what other brides have done. Oh, you're doing a backyard wedding. I've done, 500 of those. Here's what we did for the backyard wedding. Here's some tips and advice. Oh, you should do a lot of string lights. That looks really gorgeous in the photos. Have you thought about that? The best price to buy those string lights is actually on Amazon.com. Like literally just walking me through all this stuff. And I was like, this girl's going to like help me plan my wedding. She is off the hook. Like we have to book with her. Okay, you guys, my stories, we're getting carried away on the timing here. thank you guys so much for being here today. I know we have a couple last little questions here that people asked. I'll stick in the answers into the questions area just as like a chat reply so you guys can read through those. Like I said, this will be recorded. You've got the slides to download down below. You've got the poll to let us know what you thought about it. I'm also going to post a link to the poll in the chat as well. Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to come out and chat with us. I know this is one of your near and dear topics, just like it is for me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And it was great to be here. Thank you guys for being so active in the chat. That makes it way more fun.
Yep, absolutely. Alrighty, you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mickey, for letting us take a look at your account. Thank you, Michael. And don't forget to take that poll if you guys get a chance. It's just one question. We'll send out the recording in a bit and have a fabulous Wednesday. Bye, guys.